What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Julie Tallard Johnson. Now, Julie is known for her authentic voice and grounded writing. She is an award-winning author of 10 books and is a licensed psychotherapist who maintains a private practice healing services on the river in Wisconsin since 1995. There she offers the Awaken to the 0 Point Circles, spiritual journaling classes, one-on-one transpersonal counseling and consultations. Julie Tallard Johnson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you on. Yes, now this interview's going to be mainly based around one of your more recent books, which is The 0 Point Agreement, How to Be Who You Already Are. Get that right. Is that your most recent book?
Yes, that's my most recent book. Of course, I'm working on another one. But yes, that's my most recent book.
Okay. You said you've done a number of books as well. Just remind us roughly how many books have you done?
A total of 10.
Wow. Okay.
The first one was in 1989.
Yeah. What compelled you to write a book in a sense? And also on top of that question, do you find writing is a form of teaching in a sense as well?
Yes, it's a form of learning first. I focus a lot on transformational writing. I realize, one, I cannot not write, but that I work a lot out through my writing and obtain a lot of awareness or insight. It's a form of meditation and contemplation. And so as I work things out on the page and off the page, then the reader too can have that experience when they read the book. So I'm a deep believer in journaling and writing as a way to, work through things, become more aware, to investigate certain parts of our life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Now, I can actually really agree with you there because I think I'm going through the same process when I write as well. It really does home in to come up with your own truth in a sense.
Right, and it's a way of holding a conversation. It gets down to a lot about how we hold a conversation and holding a conversation not only with ourselves, but with our environment, with our spiritual source, with the idea that we're exploring on the page and off the page. So writing is really a way to often bring what we're working on or investigating or exploring full circle. And then the final round of the circle is actually putting it out there then for others to use to explore as well. And journaling is one of my books, but also journaling is part of the process in the 0 Point Agreement. I give journaling prompts as a way to explore some of the questions and concepts in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just going back here a bit, you're a psychotherapist. Where did you train for that?
I apologize for that. I trained for that in Minnesota and in Madison, Wisconsin, so through UW. But most of my training, I would say, is outside of the university system, outside of the college. One of the best classes I've ever taken on psychology and understanding the human psyche was actually a psychic development class held in Minneapolis, Minnesota, by what I consider one of my first real teachers.
And what what was so aha about that class?
Aha about that is understanding ourselves as, full, encompassing beings, which includes, that we're not just thought or body, we're also energy. About trusting our intuition. It was a lot about boundaries, understanding the difference between what's mine and what's not mine. But the key lesson in that class comes through in most of my books is becoming the cause of our life rather than the effect of our life. So even living the 0 Point Agreement, which is I live life from my side, I live life from within, it's really learning how to become the cause of our life rather than the effect. As you see, a lot of people are bounced around by the circumstances of their life. So it's really learning how to become more, centered in our life and not to be bounced around or defined by outside circumstances.
Absolutely. And as a psychotherapist, do you meet many other psychotherapists or have come across them who are into the mind, body, and soul as well and combine the two together?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's increasing and becoming more and more part of what counselors, psychotherapists are offering.
Right.
I really do most of my work, and I'm a deep believer in the concept of circles. So what Parker J. Palmer refers to as circles of trust. And so getting together in circles where dialogue takes place. David Bohm, I talk about him in the 0 Point Agreement book. Refers to compassionate dialogue, being able to be in conversation with others in a way where we can all do our inner work and still be together, supporting each other, doing our inner work, not interfering with it, but supporting it. And so I do most of my work now, and have for the last actually couple decades. Most of my work is actually done in circle. And I don't use the word group because I emphasize the idea of circle, that it evens out the playing field. I'm an engaged facilitator. I'm not a facilitator that steps, is kind of outside the circle. I do the same practices and explorations as the other ones in the circle. So I'm in full conversation with whatever the material is that we're exploring.
Yes, and it's through those conversations and sharing stories sometimes. It can be so powerful, the healing that comes from that, I can imagine.
Oh, remarkable. And so that's why I really encourage people to find a way to do this kind of exploring with others, ideally in a circle.
Yes, with people that are on the same level. That's so important, and that really comes to as well. I mean, there's still a backstory. I want to get back into your backstory a little bit, but that does come to as well. That when you surround yourself by like-minded people that have the same philosophies or the same qualities in life in a sense, but not always believe in the same things, but are on the same
No,
path.
right.
Yeah, you can only, it's the right people to be around, isn't it? They're not sort of bringing you back, dragging you down. That you're sort of expanding together.
Expanding together, but like you were hinting at, it's good to not have everybody be exactly on the same page, but to learn how to come together with people with differences. And ideally, we learn how to be with people with vast differences. So we practice in circle with people that are near on the same page, as you say, somewhat like-minded, or at least willing to explore, do their inner work, explore
Yes.
their inner work together. But so that we can have these kind of conversations with people that are quite different than us, actually.
Yes. What drives you to do the work you're doing?
That's such a good question. I think it changes a little bit, but mostly that I'm exploring what it's like to be a human being and how to be a better human being. And I really enjoy witnessing other people recognize no more of their inner qualities and able to also become more the cause of their life and less affected by the outer circumstances of their life. So being engaged with others in conversation, being influenced by them, they're being me witnessing them being influenced by me, is a good feeling.
Yeah, and I mean, absolutely. And I think what you do as well is a natural side effect of helping people. I mean, it's you've helped a lot of people, I bet, to rediscover their own
Yeah.
power.
Right, and the bottom line is I'm still just trying to figure everything out, and it's actually how we try to figure things out that really has more of an impact on our happiness than whether we figure things out, because I don't think we ever really figure things out. So it's being able to hold this conversation with ourselves and the world around us in a way that doesn't harm us or hinder us and brings us more satisfaction,
Yeah.
and that I'm a deep believer that each of us are meaning makers. We make the meaning in our life, and that so whatever gives us the ability to do that more and more. And of course, I'm just doing it right along with everybody. I'm not. I'm still exploring, still figuring things out, still stumbling, and so it's doing that in a shared and collective context, not just in circle, but in all my conversations with other people in my life.
Meaning makers, I like that, or truth makers as well. Maybe I might swap the word for. Whether you can find that meaning making when you're in a religion, I'm not sure. There was part of me that wanted to say that question to you and think, well, maybe you can, but there is restriction there, isn't there, in some respects?
Right, so there's a difference for me between religion and spirituality, in that anytime religion, often tries to force a certain dogma or mindset on somebody, I like the idea that there are no rules, there's agreements, we're very conscious about what we're in agreement with, but there's no rules, and there's no one way to experience enlightenment or happiness or fulfillment. And often religions, but there's also a lot of psychological programs
Of
out there
course.
too that say if you do this, this, and this, then you will be happy, or then you'll experience enlightenment, or then you'll develop your intuition, or whatever it may be. And I take on the approach of here's an idea, then explore it and see what works for you, and let each exploration take you where it wants to take you. So we all have our individual experience. We're not expected to have a certain experience. When we're expected to have a certain experience, we end up feeling really messed up because we don't, there's very few people, kind of the inner circle of the religious group tend to have the same experience or pretend to have the same experience, when in fact everybody's having somewhat of a unique twist
Yes.
in terms of their experiences, spiritual experiences.
What sort of books, if there was any sort of spiritual books or authors that really, helped you on the journey in the sense of looking at metaphysics?
Oh, I'm happy. Well, David Bohm, any of David Bohm, Bohm, his writings on creativity and dialogue, certain books from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, David Hawkins. One of my favorite books of David Hawkins is Letting Go, The Art of Surrender.
Oh, yes.
And then recently, well, not recently, but I'm working on a book based on Parker J. Palmer's teachings. He'd be a great person to have on your show. And he's a Quaker and an educator, and an activist. His latest book was Healing the Heart of Democracy. And so, yes, I've had, and Pema Chodron. So there's many teachers out there that have influenced me. Poets, a lot of poets.
Yes.
William Stafford is one of my favorite poets. A present-day poet I like is David White. So there's lots of good material out there.
Absolutely, and I can imagine that you do read as much as you can do sometimes when you get the chance, probably with running your practice as well. Just going back to, I did say I wanted to touch on the beginning for yourself as well. I get the sense, and I think I know this as well, that you've been through quite a bit to have to do this work.
Yeah, I suppose that's true of everybody. I do believe you can have a happy childhood and become enlightened or end up having something to offer people in a really good way. But the dysfunction in my family, particularly my history, really did lend itself to me exploring, actually going in search of my spirituality. At the time, I was really looking for, God. Around the age of 8 is really when I started my spiritual search, because I was raised in a family of, a lot of addiction, a lot of no spirituality or religion. And I really felt this desperate need of, I'm either going to follow that path, the path of the addict, the path of being the effect of your life rather than the cause, or I'm going to create a new path, my own path, be my own meaning maker. And at age 8, it really was it began as a search. It began as even somewhat of a agitation and desperateness to find something that was bigger than my family dynamics.
Yeah.
That took a while, but I did my first encounter with, actually my very first spiritual teacher was a Lutheran minister. And I share that story in a couple of my books, but in the 0 Point Agreement as well.
Okay. So, well, that's interesting. That had you not had that, I mean, it's easy for me to sit here and say these words. I mean, you had to go through that as a kid, but I'm saying, as you look back now, maybe, and you're a bit more healed from it, and it's obviously a lot more distant. You can say that maybe these things. Could you say though these things happen for a reason? That this has put you on the course you were meant to be on.
Well, I don't go by that philosophy. I don't encourage it. That's part of the psychotherapy background, but that's also part of my personal learning curve, is that that may be true, and that's kind of a mystery to me, but I don't like to force that idea on myself or on anybody else, because that then means like, geez, I asked, for this, or so I'm working with somebody who's, horribly abused, by their father or somebody, and then to bring in the concept, well, that you kind of invited this. You said before you came down, I'm going to have this terrible experience so I can, learn this or that. And I don't think that matters. What matters is that we do take whatever happens to us and then we learn from it. So I don't think it matters whether it was we invited it or asked for it or said this, I'm going to do this so my soul evolves. In my family, one thing that was lacking was integrity. But so I went in search of it. And so I'm glad that I went in search of it. So I say we can become who we are, based on what our experience was, from our experience. But I don't think it matters so much as if we said we wanted this to happen, our soul,
Sure.
chose this.
Sure. Well, it's just the way I suppose what it is. It's just my truth. That's all that is. I've used that as a point of surrender as well, in the sense when things do happen, it's like, well, you know what? I don't know what's around the corner. I know that when one door shuts, another one, or many, definitely open. And I just say, well, the universe knows best, in a sense. Not that it's in charge of me. I'm in charge of it. But sometimes some bigger things, you're like, well, I surrender.
Yep.
This happened for a reason. I'll move on. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sometimes, though, when I'm working with somebody who's like right in the middle of it, it's more about just giving them the spaciousness of not so much that it happened for a reason, but you can make meaning of it. You can do something with this. You have the capacity. And who's your help? What's your help? What's your spiritual source? And have them tap into that. And because people can get lost in the question of,
really good.
Why did I bring this on? Or what is, so instead of that, it's more about honing in on their very real human and superpowers of being able to transform the situation into something usable,
Yes.
something meaningful.
No, completely agree with you there. Yeah, absolutely. I do like that a lot.
As you notice, I'm not really telling you whether or not I believe that or not. I mean, I think if you ask me one day, I go, yeah, that so strongly resonates with what I, with my experience. And then another day I'll go, maybe not. And for me, mostly it's not the key thing, but you and I are both arriving at the same place of surrender. And letting go. It's so interesting you bring up that word surrender. I really believe that all spiritual practices, all good psychological antidotes and practices come down to some quality of letting go, some quality of surrender. We have to let go of some habitual way of relating to something or some negative belief in order to step into what's possible. So there's always that element of surrender. And it comes in different forms and flavors for each of us. So your flavor is has a little bit of, hey, this is what my life is. This is what I agreed to, and so I know I can handle it. And there's an element of surrender.
And that doesn't mean you don't take steps to change it. You don't walk forward.
Right,
I walk
right.
forward all the time.
No.
Yeah.
Well, actually, surrendering is a huge step, right? I mean, you know that. Surrendering and letting something go, letting go. Is a huge step. It's majority of people too many people aren't able to do it or don't know how to do it. So even in the book, The 0 Point, or How to Be Who We Already Are, is a lot about surrendering, a lot about letting go of who we are not. And it's simple. It's not complicated, but there's simple ways of letting go of, in a sense, who we are not and allowing ourselves to become who we truly are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I'm darting around it. We are going to get into your book. We are actually getting into your book and some of the subjects we're touching here. I just want to...
My editor tells me, say your book. But I really do live by the 0 point. So that's one reason it comes out.
Well, no, I think it's a great truth that you've got it. But just before we start on that, I just want to get into meditation as well, because I think that's a way into the 0 point. Now, when I meditate, it's different for everyone. I go in. I all I've got to do is meditate, walk through a door. I put the door. I envisage in my mind. I walk through a door, and then I'm into another reality. Then, and I'm able to communicate to my higher self, my oversoul, or at least this nature of who we possibly are. Now, I know for some people, meditation is very different to that experience. You put me on a meditation, I'm communicating to that part of myself. I can't stop it. Now, for all of us, meditation is such an important practice into this, because I think it holds the answers for a lot of things. I think if we're searching for answers, we can find it through meditation.
So one of the meditations that I hear you referring to, I mean, just a label for a certain form of meditation, is inquiry meditation, is where we're actually consciously choosing to explore a certain concept or idea or a principle or a dynamic in our life. There's the other meditation, which is the mindfulness, the calm abiding, sitting quietly, resting the mind. That is what is referred to as taming the mind. We tame the mind so we can focus it then on what we want to focus it on. So I do encourage people to at least have 10 minutes of quiet, resting their mind either in a mantra or the physical sensation of breath, and then having inquiry meditation be in a separate form of meditation.
Okay, absolutely.
And then there's contemplation, which is a little bit different than meditation.
Yeah, there is. I think whenever for me, whatever space you get into, whatever is the best practice for you to use when going into meditation, I think it's undeniable that you go into a place of, it's like heart-centeredness, isn't it? It's love. I know these words sound so soppy, but it is. It's the true. It's a beautiful place to go into.
I think you can get there. But the truth is, in my truth, we're speaking truth, right? My truth is that often people sit down in the meditation practice when you're doing the calm abiding, you're just sitting and resting the mind, and you're using, again, a mantra, but I use the physical sensation of breath. Well, often what comes up is agitation or distractions, or for me, a lot of planning. I'm always planning, figuring things out. So I gently and lovingly return back to the breath. So there's, again, that baseline type of meditation that really, for me anyway, allows for the inquiry meditation, or allows for that reaching that place of, like you're saying, bliss or light. However, in the mindfulness or the calm abiding meditation, even when you're feeling like this bliss or this light or this heart that you speak of, it's about practicing not holding on to that or grasping it or wanting to stretch it out, but just sitting and being present for it. So that calm abiding meditation for me is so core to being able to just learn how to be present for your life, be present for what's coming up, whether it's lovely and beautiful or whether it's agitated and not so pleasant, and then letting it ride, letting your consciousness or your awareness ride the tide of that particular experience without getting caught up in it, or wanting to hold on to it if it's wonderful, or get rid of it and avert yourself from it if it's not so wonderful. So to me, that core practice, for me it has been that core practice of mindfulness, of calm abiding, of resting in the breath. The physical sensation of breath is the foundation to all my other practices. And my practice started at the age of 16. I haven't been pretty consistent, but not real, not. There have been gaps in my practice since the age of 16, but I do attribute most of my happiness, if you want to call it that, most of my success, if you want to refer to any parts of my life as successful, to my meditation practice, to calmly abiding. Absolutely. And learning how just to be present and aware, and then from that awareness and that presence, we can decide, what do I want to do about this?
Thank you for sharing that. That's rather important. That is, and to hear your truth as well is that again, that's important. Now, getting to we have been getting to the 0 point agreement. You say it's how to be who you already are. Now, how do we know who we already are? Is that who we are in the present moment?
Somebody sent me. You've heard this joke, but be yourself because everybody else is taken up, kind of thing. But yeah, I do believe that we're born with some, we're born pretty pure, pretty clear, pretty clean slate, so to speak, in terms of not a lot of impressions from anybody on us, and that quickly changes on how we're treated, as children, right from birth on. But that at the core of us is our, what we refer to as the inner light, our true nature, our Buddha nature, our Christ nature. It's referred to as different things, but there's this core truth to who we are. I also believe that core sense, that core true nature has some unique qualities, and so we're born with that. And then basically we spend the rest of our life trying to bring it forth, trying to remember, trying to touch it more and more often. And so I have a saying in all my circles and in all my teaching, and anytime I'm teaching and gathering people in a group, I say, I invite them to do certain practices, but I always say, come as you are with what you have. Don't try to force something or make something happen. Come as you are, because with that gentleness, that spaciousness, you will get in touch with, your true self, your true nature. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. So let's just remind ourselves then, the 0 point agreement as well. Let's just cover that one more time.
So the 0 point agreement is, to me, the base of all agreements. We're always in agreement with something. In every moment of our life, we're in agreement with something. I'm in agreement with how I feel about myself. I'm in agreement with talking to you. So on all different levels of our being, of our experience, we're in agreement. And I've been working with the concept of agreements, for a long time, and realize that the core agreement, the bottom line agreement, is the 0 point agreement, or at least that's what I'm naming it. And that is the agreement to live life from our side, to live life from within outward rather than outward inward, to be the cause of our life rather than the effect. And so in the one pithy phrase, it's I live life from my side. So you and I are in conversation right now, and I'm doing my best to live life, from my side of this equation, from my side of this conversation, and not try to get into your stuff, or try not to be pushed around by other things that may be happening, right now in my life, but be present for my experience, and so then I can be fully present for you. And there's certain qualities that go with living from the 0 point. And one I'll just bring up right now, one of them is the willingness and the ability to be mutually influenced by the other, mutually influenced. So it's not about just me over here and you over there. It's about conversation, and how to hold a conversation with integrity is, again, the 0 point agreement. I agree to live life from my side. I ideally fully present, which I blow, all the time, which I fumble and stumble with that myself.
Don't we all? Don't we all? I don't think you can be too hard on yourself.
I get a little worried, and it probably I don't come across this way probably at all, but just because we wrote the book, right, or just because we came up with an idea doesn't mean we have it all figured out, obviously. And in the writing process, we talked about the writing process earlier. The writing process helps us figure it out, and then that's what I'm still doing, is I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, and that's a lifetime's set of work you've got there, I would
Right,
say. Yeah. I really, okay, now this is starting to make a lot of sense now with the 0 point agreement. Now, obviously life's a test in some respects. It's never going to be completely plain sailing. I don't think we'd learn if it was.
Yeah.
So when people come into our lives which disrupt our happiness, they seem to test us, don't they, in a sense? Whatever it could be, whatever small situation, it's still, some people find it very hard to say no.
Yeah. Well, again, part of the 0 point can help with that in terms of one of the understandings or concepts of the living from the 0 point, living life from your side, is really critical. And I totally stole this from the I Ching, the ancient Chinese oracle, the I Ching, and from Gottman's therapy for married couples. Gottman, Gottman. They do relationship therapy, research-based relationship therapy, and the I Ching, and that is the idea of finding the halfway point. So there's a halfway point between you and the other, and that includes spirit, the halfway point between me and my spiritual source, halfway point between me and you right now. And so when somebody comes to me, it's important for me to pay attention to that halfway point and not go past the halfway point. Or in the case of intimate relationships, or when I'm in conversation with somebody, not to be way far away from the halfway point. So it's a metaphor, but to find that halfway point and meet the other, whoever the other is or whatever the other is, halfway. And the people who are codependent, if you want to use that word, or over-giving, give too much, tend to go past the halfway mark.
That's my point. Yes, yeah, they do. I mean, how do they refine their balance to find out what their halfway point is? Is it just a case of really whatever makes them happy?
Well, that's a good one. So what truly makes us happy? So it's about knowing that our true nature's happiness, or what in Tibetan Buddhism we refer to as the hungry ghost concept, the idea, the part of us that's always hungry and scared and needy. So what that part of us wants is quite different from the part of us that is centered in our true nature, or is just plain old more centered and in ourselves. So yes, I absolutely agree with you. In fact, I start the book, The 0 Point Agreement, is we need to start with understanding what it is we want, what we truly want. So there's simple methods, in the sense you could say, to ask yourself, to explore that question of what it is I truly want. In general, over-encompassing in my life, but also specifically in this relationship or in this moment. Of course, some people don't get to that point. There's a really simple practice I have in the book,
Right.
and I have it in a couple books. Should I share it?
Please.
That helps us. Okay, that helps us because a lot of people really don't know what we want. Even I, at times, don't know what I want. I'm all caught up in something else, anger or whatever it might be. But what is to practice, take a little field notebook with you. I think every spiritual journeyer, every writer needs a field notebook. Take a little field notebook with you and be asking yourself fairly routinely, what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling? And that's both emotionally and physically. And what do I want? And don't go on a vigilante hunt like, what am I thinking? And then, struggle. Or what am I feeling and struggle for it? Just ask the questions. As you know, when we ask ourselves the question in a spacious way from the heart center, we will get a response. And so it's getting used to asking the question, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What do I want? And then we discover it. We end up discovering it. So that's a real basic, simple technique that really helps us listen to ourselves and then ultimately find out what we want, what we truly want.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And there is we're not saying we're not employing logic here as well. We're not switching off the logical side of our brain as well. We're embracing both the logical and the heart space.
Yeah. So what would be an example? What do you mean?
Well, if someone says, "Well, I'm just going to go with my feelings," compared to someone else that would say, "Well, I'm not going to go with my feelings. I'm going to go with logic," and what's the logical thing to do?
Right. So it's more holistic. It's the complete person. Is what you're saying.
Yes.
So it's both. Right. And awareness again. That's why I'm very biased about awareness meditation. Is the more we can easily become aware of what we're thinking, more easily become aware of what we're feeling, and more easily become aware of what we want, then life, gets a little bit more easy, a little more simple. And we can use those techniques then during the real edgy times, during the times that are really difficult and hard and challenging.
Yes, I mean those challenging times. It could just be a breakup of a relationship as well. It could be the dissolving of that, and then you can use this. Go ahead.
Yep. Oh, I'm just going to say, you mentioned about the logic, and I would almost say too, as a result of these different practices that we have of learning how to become more centered and be ourselves, logic in some ways also is the result. We kind of get a logical result. We get a result that makes sense, that works, that moves us forward in our life, that moves and opens us up more to to what's next. So I'd say both the process is logical and the result is logical.
Right, absolutely.
It makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and as you've said in this interview as well, your truth can change day by day. That's okay as well. By going with a new truth tomorrow, that's just as good as being on the right path as well. That's part of it.
As long as it's not the core. I don't really think that we should be flitting around with our core truths necessarily, because so for example, let's say we were working with an intention. There's a lot out there now, and in several of my books I write about how to create live through intention, live by intention. And there's other writers out there and authors that have ways to live intentionally, purposefully, but with intention. So let's say we set an intention. In my circles, we do this. My circles go for a year, and we set an intention for the year. Well, we don't want to say, this is my intention this month, but next month is a different intention. To really get the benefits, to really get the transformation, we want to stick with a certain intention for long enough until something manifests from it. So that's true too for me, my truth. It's true that when we pick a certain spiritual concept or certain truth, that we continue working with that one and not be jumping around, kind of like religion jumping or something, that we find a certain practice and truth to work by. So I have a certain core practice, certain core principles that I work by, and those will stay constant throughout my life. And that's what I recommend, and I can study, though. I study all sorts of different teachers, and I attend different teachings, but I always refer back to my core teachings, and because that supplies, research has shown this, that supplies more results, basically. More results because The consistency, the continuity of relating to certain spiritual principles and practices, or psychological principles and practices, really bring forth something that's much more tangible than if we keep changing, how we're approaching our life. And that's also how we discover who we truly are, is through some continuity. Another example would be, let's say, so every morning I sit down and I meditate. And so everything in my universe knows I'm going to be doing that. And so with that, the communication gets really clear. And I also go for a walk, so I'm always having spiritual experiences on my walk. I'm sure you understand that. And part of that is because of the continuity and the consistency. My spiritual source knows where to find me. I have a certain language going. So the conversation with my spiritual source and with my inner self, my true self, has a certain language. And that language is discovered through our continuity and consistency. So continuity and consistency is really valuable.
Yes, yes, it is. It is. And these are paths to lead us into discovering our purpose or the meaning in our life as well. Because some people, are searching for that. As we speak now, they're searching for what is the meaning, what am I here to do, what is my purpose? And what would be your advice to them? Could it be follow whatever really you love to do or whatever turns you on?
Well, what I say to that is one of the core precepts of the 0-point agreement, how to be who you already are, is to give up the old myth. I believe it's an old myth to be searching for meaning. And I give some scientific examples of that in terms of when we're on search mode, we often can lose sight of what other possibilities there are. David Bohm refers to this. Other scientists, wildlife biologists, scientists refer to how animals, when they're in search mode for a certain food, they often miss out on other opportunities that are there. So if we're in search mode, we can often miss other opportunities. What was the man who wrote the book on the happiness quotient? His research also shows that when we're, we're saying this is what's going to make me happy. If I find out, what my spiritual truth is, even if I find that one person who's going to make me happy, or that one vocation, or if I find my purpose and I'm in search of my purpose, then when we get it, or we think we get it, or we have it, then we go into search mode for the next thing. So my book, one of the premises of the book, in living the 0-point agreement, is a willingness to give up the search, the myth of the search, the quest even, to be honest with you, and to say, I can make meaning right here, right now in my life. So that is a huge myth. That's going to be a huge thing to give up, that the sense of being in quest mode, being in search mode. But we need to do that as a culture too. Culturally, we're in trouble if we continue. Everybody's in search mode. That's one reason advertisements and the happy pill and all this is being offered to us, and a lot of people are, saying, okay, I'm going to try that and see if that makes me happy, or if this makes me happy. We have the capability, we have the capacity to be happy in the moment. I'm not saying blissed out all the time, but we have the capacity in every moment to make meaning, to make something purposeful in the moment. So everything we need is right here. That's part of the 0-point, right? Everything we need and want is right here in this moment. And so that giving up the search means we can come right here into the moment and say, okay, what is here? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What do I want? What can I create from this moment, this experience? And that's quite remarkable. I forget to do that sometimes still, because there's so much in our culture and in me that fights to try to force things, or things I do have to search outside myself to make something happen.
All these questions are off the top of my head right now, in a sense, just going on the conversation we're having, really. But okay. I'm going to say some of the things here just and see if, and just hope that people can relate to what I'm saying rather than this be about me. But I'm sure there's others like me that will feel the same. Okay, so I've not had a relationship for a long time, and there's been times where I've been lonely. And I've had to realize and say to myself, you know what, you are on the mend. You are on your own right now because you're perfecting yourself. you're working on yourself, so that when you do meet the person that you will meet around the corner, you'll be both coming from the same space. I would maybe, on top of that, say, from what you've just said as well, that finding purpose in the moment now, that everything that you're, rather than searching for it, is so very true. And I think for my truth in that sense would probably be, I'm where I need to be right now. I'm exactly where I need to be, and the acceptance that goes with that.
I like that. I appreciate that. That one way of being with the moment is saying, this is exactly what I need, and everything I need is right here. And it might not be my favorite place, and I am looking forward to some change, or something else happening, or something else going on. I'm looking forward to the movement, but this is what I need right now, so I'm going to work it. I'm going to be with it.
That's so true. And another thing I'll add is be prepared to take risks. Take some risks.
Yes, risk.
And if that risk means reinventing yourself or trying something new that you would never have done before, and I'm not talking about a war, some sort of sport, I think it could be. I'm saying using your feet going forward in life and taking a new turn by pushing yourself out of your comfort.
Yeah, I think it gets down to risk-taking continually. And in the 0 Point book, I give the story of, the game Truth or Dare?
Yes.
Kids play,
Yes.
and I've heard my daughter play with her, when she was a teenager, play with her teenage friends, Truth or Dare. And what I get at is, listening to them play it, they often take the truth, do the truth. But I think the dare is what's really going to take us forward, is take the dare, do the dare.
Yes, because this is so true. You just don't know what's around the corner when you do. We're not. Me and you aren't saying take irresponsible actions. Obviously, things need a bit of planning, and even to go out of present moment and to think future-wise, making dates and stuff like that for whatever it is you're looking at doing. But we're saying, by going into that dare, there's something amazing on the other side.
Yes, I wouldn't say we're talking a soulful risk. It will feel edgy emotionally, but I'm not talking about endangering yourself or others, or not having any kind of thought process. So sometimes the moment means it's a moment of planning, right? We don't always want to be planning mode, but planning is part of our moment-to-moment experience. Preparation's good.
Yes, absolutely. Now, again, your book covers all sorts of subjects here, and one of them, which I was surprised actually, is shouldn't be really, but law of attraction, as well, in a sense.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I don't understand law of attraction. Teal Swan brought a video out just recently, and excuse my French here, but it was called "Fuck Law of Attraction." That's her new video, and it's got some major hits actually. I don't. I don't understand law of attraction, because I can't understand my life right now, where when I want something, it's not a want. When I say when I see something and I'm just attracting it to me, I don't get it. It's just, and I don't get how I'm doing it, and yet I'm not questioning the process. So I don't know if it's even law of attraction or whatever it is. It's almost like it's something else. I don't know. I don't understand it.
It's not. So I believe law of attraction. My truth is law of attraction is a scam. It's the law of intention or attention. And you're pointing out something really helpful, so I hope you share your story, what you just shared, because a lot of people, I saw a lot of suffering with the law of attraction, and that's why that other probably author wrote, FU, law of attraction, because people apply all the rules like dogma of the law of attraction, and they don't get what they want. One is that maybe it's not what they truly want. Maybe they, so they end up feeling really messed up. They feel more messed up, more screwed up, because they're doing everything that the, law of attraction says to do, and they're not getting what they want. And so it's a scam, basically, the law of attraction, how it's presented in most cases. And it's a real setup for shame and blame and not taking responsibility, for our life. So, in zero point agreement, of course, we agreed to take 100% responsibility for our experiences. So, the law of attraction basically says if you do this program and you don't get what you want, you're not, there's something off with you, there's something wrong with you.
So what am I experiencing then, and how am I able to do this, and how can I give this same pleasure and experience to other people? I mean, yeah, I don't really get it.
So I'm a real believer in scripting. I think they suggest scripting, which is borrowed from cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's that logic and that heart material that's in it. It's called scripting. It's in the 0 Point book. And scripting is actually identify what it is you want, right? Like you want the love of your life,
Or a camera,
whatever. It doesn't matter. It can be small and it can be large, but to name it clearly. We could even go into detail about how we want it, and we can script it. We can script how it's going to look when it's 100% true, when our intention or what it is we want is 100% true. But then we let it go. We completely let it go. So even in the moment when it comes up and I want this, I want this, I want that, we bring our awareness to it, but we let it go. We don't. It's very scary for us. It's very scary for people to let go of what they want, to let go of the hunger for what we want, to let go of the search, because we're afraid if we stop the search, if we stop craving or wanting something, we're not going to get it. And the opposite's true. David Hawkins writes a lot about this, that if we learn to name what we want, that's good. Be clear about it, script around it, be detailed about it, but then let it go and go do your day. Be in the moment, and then it will come to you.
Now, I think there's something resonating with what you're saying there. I think you've put into words what I couldn't just there. I think I am doing that. I think I am saying, I want that £1,000 camera, and then I'm letting go.
Yeah.
I'm letting go.
Yep.
And then, the option's there to buy it. Okay, I will do. Yeah, and this could be a partner as well. You could apply this to a partner. Whatever it is, I think you're right. That's what I've been doing. It's the act of letting go and surrendering to it. But
that's great.
Taking the steps to say I did want this, I do want this. It's not want.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's even want. I don't know if I use that. I think I'm going to have this. Or it's almost like saying I have this already. Even though you don't.
Yes, and he refers to that. David Hawkins talks about that in reality, we already have it. It's already there. So we don't have to keep grasping. Grasping actually kind of creates a closed fist rather than an open fist. So just, again, being aware of what we want and then letting it go actually creates an open hand, more receptivity, more possibility for it.
Right.
Again, too, maybe it's something else that's even better. I'm sure you've heard this, and there's something even better, more useful, a better camera that wants to come into our life. And so when we're not searching for it or grabbing for it or insistent that, this is what I want exactly like this in the moment, after we've defined it, but we're letting go, and then other possibilities show up. There's so many possibilities. This is borrowed from quantum physics again, and David Bowen's work, is that we tend to shut ourselves off from what's truly possible by focusing in too much on one thing, and also noticing what we don't have and grabbing for or holding on to what we do have when we already have. I don't think it's unlimited. I don't think that's realistic, but we have so much available to us, so much that's possible. So we want that possibility to show itself. We want what's truly possible internally and externally to show itself. So there's different ways to make room for those possibilities. And that's what we're talking about today.
Yes.
Making room for ourselves and making room for what wants to happen, what's possible. Not getting in our own way or having what we falsely learned about ourselves through, like we were mentioning, childhood trauma, or what we falsely learn about ourselves through cultural indoctrination, through our culture. What we learn about ourselves we falsely learn about ourselves, we want to become free of that so we can see what's truly possible. There's so many things that are limiting our view and our perspective. Some of those are internal now, and many of them are external. So it's opening up the view, opening up and
Yes,
seeing what's truly possible. But it's
absolutely.
not like anything is possible. But there's a lot that's possible. There's enough that's possible.
Well, yeah, I think as you climb that ladder of bringing these, using this practice, I think, you can really draw some big impossible things to you, which probably a couple of, even a year ago to where you are now, would have felt impossible, but because you've progressed so much, actually, it was not that impossible. It was just that journey you had to take to get there, in a
Yep.
sense. You mentioned something really interesting. You've mentioned it a few times. This with the 0 point agreement, where you take 100% responsibility. Isn't that the crux of it all? Where if we've got something shitty going on in our lives, we are not prepared to say or to take that responsibility. Yet, if we did, we would then learn to love ourselves again, to be able to change it, to say that, okay, well, I'll take responsibility, even, and from that space, the correct answers will come from that for the happiness that I'm looking for.
Yeah. That's where we'll find the possibility. That's where we become empowered. That's where we learn what it is we really want. Again, that's where we become the cause of our life rather than the effect of our life. So, and I give the analogy of, I'm not saying that the tree that fell on your house, you're not responsible for the tree falling on your house. The tornado, the wind caused, or maybe somehow the weather, or the tree was old, fell on your house. Maybe you had something to do with why it fell on, but that's not what's important. What's important is, what you do about it. So taking 100% responsibility is a response thing. Responsibility is how we respond to the circumstances of our life. So taking 100% responsibility for my response then opens up many, many doorways, many possibilities, and is a lot more satisfying than saying, being pushed around by our circumstances, or being just super angry that the, tree fell on our house, and, being upset for maybe weeks and days, rather than going, okay, what do I want to do here? What's in my response?
How would you compare that to a broken heart as well, where someone's really hurt someone else?
Well, Parker J. Palmer, I love his analogy of when our heart gets broken, and of course all of our hearts do get broken, and it's usually through something, in relationship, right? Whether it's with another individual, or whether it's with a group, or what have you. We get to choose, taking 100% responsibility for our life or for our experience. We get to choose whether our heart's going to break apart or break open. So if it breaks open, then we open up to, yes, the pain, the discomfort, the dissatisfaction and all that, but we also open up to what's possible. If it shatters apart, breaks apart, then we break apart, and there's no necessarily forward motion in our life. So I like to think of ourselves as being able to break, our hearts breaking open rather than breaking apart.
And becoming a stronger, newer person for it, and absolutely.
Yeah.
And no, I know that a lot of people go through issues in relationships. It's one of the biggest things out there, and just to be able to apply the 0 point to that's interesting. Now you've done a number of other books as well, and one of the books was which I found interesting was Teen Psychic: Exploring Your Intuitive Psychic Powers, or spiritual journaling. What led you to write that type of book as well?
So Teen Psychic is based on that class that I took from that marvelous teacher in Minneapolis, Minnesota, that I said was the best psychology class I ever took. It was called Psychic Development. Then I went on to teach it for about 15 years. And every teaching in there for me was remarkable. And a lot of those teachings show up in all my books. And what I wanted was for this to be available for teenagers, for young adults.
Right.
So basically, I took all the relatable material and wrote it then for teenagers. And spiritual journaling, I also teach a lot on transformational writing, spiritual journaling, and I just wanted to reframe it for teenagers. Again, journaling is such a wonderful avenue of discovery and decision-making, empowerment.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I wrote those 2 books.
No, I think the exploring your intuition and spiritual, I think it's spiritual power. I just thought the chapters were so. It was they were really, it was really easy stuff to grasp, and I think that came across really well. From like psychic protection. Anything is possible. The path with heart and emotional wisdom. I browsed through some of these chapters real quickly and I thought, oh well, that's I like the way what you've done there. But it was I see now the connection of why you did those books and how they do connect with your latest book as well.
Oh, I was just going to say I taught that class recently, and was just amazed at how much I gleaned from that particular teacher and class.
Yeah, it really woke a part of you up, didn't it? That was always there.
It did, yep.
Absolutely. What would you say? I mean, there's bits of this of the 0 point that we've not covered, but we really are running out of time right now.
Okay.
What would you say is the most important message of the 0 point agreement?
The most important message I would say is to learn the ability to live from the inside out, to be able to navigate your life, centered in yourself instead, and become the cause of your life rather than the effect of your life, meaning to really become more and more aware of your belonging and your place in the world, and from there explore, from there discover who you are, from there realize what it is you want, moment to moment. So really about living from the inside out, to being the cause and not the effect of your life, in a nutshell.
No, that's a beautiful message. And now just remind people of your courses as well, the teachings that you do. How can people find out more information about those as well?
So I do online classes, both for writers, and I have a couple spiritual classes through my website. So if you just go to my website, and on the home page is a list of upcoming events. So I do speaking and talks around the topics in the book. And again, it's my name, JulieTallardJohnson.com. And if you go there, you'll be able to get my email address and find out what I'm up to.
Excellent. Okay, and again, with your books, they're all available through bookstores, Amazon, and other platforms.
Yep. Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we've been putting your books up on your website throughout this interview,
Thank you.
so people can contact you directly. I would just like to say, Julia Tallard Johnson, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really been enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you for the conversation.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on The More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on our past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.com, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.